Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled you're here and joining us. Today, we are going to talk about EDI and specifically EDI for info distribution. I am joined by a fantastic panel, and let me introduce you to them. Uh, Jason Schulte is joining us. Jason works in information technology at Schimberg. Jason, you've been there about 5 years in the IT department, and you are managing IT projects, you're testing and implementing lots of different tools and technologies, and you are also the help desk for Schimberg. You've got a lot of different hats. Um, I know you've been working with us for a number of years now, specifically with Ethan on the EDI projects while you've been at Schimberg. So thanks for joining us. Lance, thank you also for joining us. You are the Director of Professional Services at Expertech Systems. You are one of our partners, and Expertech, y'all specialize in delivering comprehensive solutions for and for Cloud Suite, both SXE and CSD. And y'all's expertise spans ERP implementation, mobile entry, e-commerce, shipping integration, and lots more. Lance, I know you are a respected public speaker and thought leader, and you are always presenting at events like TUG and things like that. You are known for building strong client partnerships and leading, high impact customer centric teams. We're thrilled to have you join us. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about UniLink and the UniLink team that's here. Ethan Price is one of our senior developers here at UniLink. You've been with us for 7 years?
I think so. Coming up on 6 or 7, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're thrilled you're here. Mitch is our Director of Sales and Marketing. And it's a face that many of you might have seen wandering around at TUG. And then my name is Sarah Butler, and I am the Director of Professional Services, and I will be your host. Let's talk just for a moment and say this will be about 45, maybe 50 minutes, depending on how many questions we have. And we are delighted to be talking about EDI, what it is, how does it work, how do you know you need it, what do you do once you've decided EDI is the right path for you, and best practices for implementing it within your organization. A little bit about UniLink. I won't I will not read the slide here, but we've been in EDI for well north of 25 years. We're getting close to 30 at this point. Been an info delivery partner for almost all of that time. And we are info distribution's most recommended EDI solution. We understand those ERPs quite well and know how to make EDI seamless within that. So let's start with what is EDI? How does it work? And I will tell you, EDI stands for Electronic Data Interchange. That's what that acronym stands for. But to talk about what it is and how it works, I'm gonna first ask Ethan to explain some of that.
Yeah, sure. So first off, I'll go ahead and apologize for any potential background noise. Like 5 minutes ago, we had a good storm blow in here, so it's a little loud out there. But anyway, so yeah, for most of our EDI projects, they involve the core 4 documents, some combination of the two. And those core 4 are going to be the 850 purchase order, the 810 invoice, the PO acknowledgement being the 855, and the 856 advanced ship notice. And so we'll talk about the ASN a little bit. There's a lot of power in that document. It can be just as simple as, your order is coming sometime soon. at any given point, but it could be as detailed as, we're going to ship with FedEx given this pallet number, this carton ID at this given date, and this amount is going to be back ordered and come in at this date. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and it's very important to both either your vendors or your customers, depending on, which side of the EDI transaction you're on. And yeah, like going into that EDI kind of goes both ways. If you are the customer in the situation, you're going to be sending out the 850 and receiving back the 810, the 855, and the 856, or it'd be vice versa if you're the vendor. There's a little bit of a difference between what we call the functional acknowledgement 997 and the PO acknowledgement. So any EDI transaction is going to receive that functional acknowledgement 997 in return. Think of it almost like a red receipt kind of. It's just one system communicating to the other, yes, we got your file. Can't guarantee that it processed correctly or imported or anything like that, but it did hit the system, and so there was a successful, transaction there. Whereas the PO acknowledgement is a little bit different because it acknowledges just the 850 document. So it'll come back and say, this purchase order was fine for these 3-line items, but these next 3-line items, we actually had to change the quantity because we couldn't fulfill the order that you wanted to. We're going to back order that and it comes in at a later date, or maybe there was a pricing change or something along those lines. And of course, there's tons of other options for EDI. There's the ACH and warehouse inventory management, all those kinds of options as well.
There certainly are a lot of options out there, Ethan. You're right. But the basic, that basic piece is exactly what Ethan said. It is transacting or exchanging information between either your customer or one of your suppliers. And there's lots of numbers and acronyms and initials out there, but that is the base of it, is being able to exchange that information digitally and going straight to with it into your ERP, as opposed to having to do lots and lots of manual entry. So let's talk about the benefits of EDI, and why you might use it. I'm going to open this up to the panel, and I'm going to start with you, Lance. Can you talk about some of the benefits you see for your clients and why and when they adopt EDI?
Yeah, our customers that we've implemented on EDI, they've been able to streamline a lot of their business processes and free up having to do things manually by implementing EDI. By setting up EDI with their vendors and suppliers, they're able to get their purchase orders submitted and acknowledged in a more timely manner without having to go in there and actually do everything manually. You can set up all the processes, especially if you're on a Cloud Suite customer, to really hone in on Ion Desk to really take your EDI to the next level with workflows and data flows to get your business processes so that they're automated. So that's a huge benefit. It allows your staff to spend more time on working on other functions within their job and solely save those resources to be better spent elsewhere. EDI is just really a phenomenal tool that's been around for a long time, but a lot of companies that are don't really utilize the benefit of it because they just don't know. Working with UniLink, you guys make it really easy for the customer to transpose what documents they want in multiple formats. So it's just the whole streamlining of processes and making things more efficient within the organization.
That's great. Jason, what have y'all seen at Schemberg in ways that it's helped you and your company?
Yeah, I'll second everything Lance said there. From a sales perspective, anytime you get purchase orders from customers, I mean, they're instantly into Cloud Suite for us. So it saves our sales guys a lot of time, a lot of manual entry. When you get those purchase orders, they receive the purchase order, they can review it quickly just to make sure everything looks good, and get that pick ticket printed to get the order moving. So that's a big time saver for them. And then we've got a number of large corporate customers that use purchasing portals. So they have some requirements around confirming orders in their purchasing portal, sending shipping confirmations, things like that. So that also saves our sales guys time from having to go into those portals and manually confirm those orders and things like that. So big time savings there. And then from sending invoices to those purchasing portals as well. It saves our accounts receivable team a lot of time. They don't have to go in and manually enter all those invoices. They just get sent every night, and then they just got to check for exceptions there. So huge time savings.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's those are all amazing benefits. There's a few more up here on the slide itself, but let's talk about when you might want to implement EDI. Um, you know, I recognize this sounds a little self-serving, but we believe doing EDI, the time is now. I'm not the sales guy, but it does make you easier to do business with your customers because it's giving you faster feedback on what's happening in your business. Um, Maybe it's a personnel limitation that maybe you started doing EDI or in-house, and maybe that person retired or left the company, and you don't want to have to go through retraining on how to manage that. Maybe you're migrating, and you're going from SXE to Cloud Suite, and you know if you have it now and you're running it now, you need it running when you go live. But if you're not doing it now, uh, we suggest the plan is get up and running in Cloud Suite, and then plan an EDI implementation after that occurs. You know, with that big jump, you want to make sure that you have all those pieces in place, and then start tackling EDI. So that's some of the times when you might consider doing that. Um, let's talk a little bit about what you need to get started. And Ethan, I'd like to bring you in a little bit. Say, so we have someone who said, okay, I know what EDI is now, and I know kind of how it works. I see why it's going to help my company. What do I need to get started?
Yeah, sure. So the big thing I think is to go ahead and identify at that point, who you want to trade EDI with. Whether that be as a volume calculation or just as many as you can possibly do, and try to onboard those as quickly as you can. Reach out to them. What document types do they support? How do they connect? What format do they want their EDI documents in? And go ahead and lay out all of those requirements and specifications out ahead of time before you even begin testing, because that allows everybody to kind of have a good idea of what the goal of the project is and all of the work that's actually going to be inside of the scope of the project.
Yeah, that's great. Lance, is there anything you would add, or Jason, y'all would add about what you need to get started?
You need to have a good understanding of what you're looking to accomplish with EDI. Like with each of your suppliers, your vendors and customers, there's going to be a lot of different formats and everything. So you need to understand which format you're going to work with, especially everything in on the CSD side. With ION, everything's going to come in through an XML, but in those XMLs, you need to know what fields and everything you're going to send or receive from the customer or vendor. Just having a good knowledge, and also just having a good knowledge of how that works. If you're not technical, it's okay to have someone else understand that, but be able to explain it to you clearly what you need to do in order to get that up and running.
Mm-hmm. Jason, would you add anything?
No, I think Ethan and Lance covered it pretty well there.
Great. One of the things you'll also want to think about, I would say, is time frame and sort of resources needed, because you will need somebody. As you're getting started, you will want someone there who can talk about, from a business perspective, what the business use case is and how it's going to affect your business process. Jason, I know Schimberg's done EDI for a while now, but as you start to identify new trading partners or a new customer who is EDI capable, what are some of the conversations that you all have internally about what's needed to get that started?
Yes. So some of the things that all customers are different in a lot of ways in how they interact with us currently. So I typically talk with whoever the inside sales rep is to understand, the types of orders that are being sent to us and the types of interactions they have with that customer and just figuring out what their process is for processing orders. So, for example, some of our customers have a lot of fabrication requirements or order a lot of non-stock items, and those types of things don't work super well with EDI. When you've got a lot of stock items that are being ordered and things like that, where you've got a part number defined for that, those are really good use cases, and the number of transactions are high with that customer. So just figuring out, what our internal process is, and then um, also making sure that the customer has somebody that can support that process as well, and making sure that they'll understand how that EDI process is going to work together with us.
Sarah,
So
you're
what I'm
muted.
hearing, from y'all, if I could summarize it, is you want to have a lot of conversations. You want to have conversations with your sales team, talking about, do we see that demand, or are there folks who are EDI capable, and what that could look like. What sort of information are we looking to trade? Internally within our ERP knowledge, do we have that ERP knowledge internally to know, for example, within Cloud Suite, how to manipulate some of the Ion setup? Or do we need to go to a trusted partner for that? So lots of conversations there. And then, the part also including, who internally is going to be helping walk through that process. The next question you would want to ask yourself is, well, what are different ways to do EDI? And Mitch, I'm going to bring you in to talk about sort of the three big ways, really the three ways that you can do it.
I was just sitting here enjoying the show. So, no, actually, it's pretty funny. You're right. There's these three ways is it's not rocket science here, but it's pretty obvious in that, you either can do it the way you're doing it now, which is manual. And if you're doing it that way now, as everybody has said, you're really talking about, how much time are you using with your people? And are there other things that your people, you could use those folks to do and help in your organization? So you keep doing it manual, and that's really what you're going to see. And, there's been studies that say, the cost is somewhere around $10 to $15 a transaction every time someone's doing that. So when you start adding up the transactions, that money gets pretty big. The other option that you can look at is if you want to do EDI and you have resource, you have a technical staff, you could do it in-house. A lot of folks want to have that control, and especially, there's technical folks that want that control. But you got to ask yourself, you know, what are they doing on other projects, and are we keeping up? And are other projects just getting backburnered because something else is coming up? And then again, you're asking yourself about your people usage. Plus, on top of it, there's cost for the technology. You got to have the right technology to do EDI on your own. So it's interesting. And then, shoot, if somebody leaves, then you're back where you started from. So it's an ongoing circle there that you've got to be prepared if you're going to do it yourself. And then the last one is obviously, is outsourcing it and getting a managed service to do it. Generally, when you're looking at a manual service or managed service, you're looking at somebody who really has that expertise. They understand the requirements, not just of EDI, but of the ERP that you have. And, it's something that's really important. And the other thing you want to be aware of is looking at, when you're looking at a managed services, how is their fee structured? Are they fee structured based on a success model so that you're only paying for what you're doing? Or do they have charges for, just for talking with them? So you want to be careful even in that one. So each one of the silos has their things to be cautious with. I'm a little self-serving in this, and I'm the sales guy on the call. So I'll say that I obviously believe that managed services is the most efficient way to get ROI back for, entering into the the EDI world. So
Thanks, Mitch.
sure.
Let's talk about best practices. We talked about what it is, why you might want to do it, when you want to do it, what you need. Let's go through and talk about some best practices to keep in mind. And Jason, I'd like to start with you. If you could give, 2 or 3 examples of things that you think are good ideas to keep in mind as someone implements EDI.
Yeah, a lot of that goes back to our conversation about communication. So the change management aspect of implementing EDI is enormous, and understanding, what information your customer is receiving from you, and how it interacts with their systems as well. Um, Even though you might be sending some information like through an acknowledgement, their system may not intake that information the same way another customers might. So you got to make sure that if their system is supposed to automatically update their purchase order once you acknowledge it, things like that, that's working the way it should. And when we did our initial setup, we had some help from Central Data to implement all of our um, configurations to make sure that the documents were transmitting and things like that. And once you do that the first time, then that stuff is set up and good to go. So they helped us with getting some of those workflows set up, and um, getting that initial process going, and then some initial questions that I had when I first started using EDI. So if you don't have the answers right away, then I would recommend going to somebody that has some answers that can help you with that. That way you're not spinning your wheels.
Thanks. So Lance, to you, I'm sort of wondering what do the conversations look like if someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I'm ready to do EDI. What do I need to think about on the ERP side?" What are some of the big considerations that you're walking somebody through?
So what we, as a provider, solutions provider, what we want to do is we want to ask all the questions like, what are you looking to do? What are you expecting the end result to be? You know, we we're going to ask lots of questions on what specific are you looking to do. As a channel partner, we know what documents are available on EDI working with you. We may ask, do you want to be able to provide your catalog? Do you want to be able to provide your pricing? Are you looking to get in? What are you looking to get back from your vendor when you send out a purchase order? Just we're going to ask tons and tons of questions. We're going to look and see how your system is set up. Are you going to be looking to do flat files? Are you going to look to use Ion? What do you expect the end result to be on? Do we need to set up workflows for you if we are using the Cloud Suite with Ion? Also, we're going to say what customers are you looking to set this up with? What vendors do you want to set this up with? Can you get what sample files that they may have? What we want to do is we want to be able to build a repository for all of your documents and be able to hand that over to you so that if there are any changes, you can actually maintain that yourself without having to rely on the channel part. We love working with you, but at the same time, we want you to become self-sufficient once you're set up with that. So if there's any changes, you can actually work, say they're working with you to make those changes and not have to go through us. We'll help any way to get you all set. If you want us to do all the work, we'll do it. But if we can teach you on how to do this and make it so that you have a well-documented library to move forward so that when any changes are made and you can just make those updates, should your EDI person decide to move on or something, this is there for you to be able to move on without saying, all right, where am I? I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Ethan, can you talk to me a little bit about product timelines and sort of what that could look like and some of the details? We talked a little bit about the details, but can you talk about a little bit more about project timeline?
Yeah, sure. So, like I mentioned previously, you kind of want to start the timeline off by just go ahead and laying out the requirements and specifications of the project. And I think that kind of allows everybody to get a good grasp on the work that it's going to take on each side and kind of set that timeline up. We estimate typically if it's, the full implementation of the core four documents to be, 2 to 4 weeks per document type. So you multiply that out by four, and that kind of gives you a generalized timeline. And that's an example of that, just trying to set expectations ahead of time to keep everybody on track and, make sure you're hitting all those major milestones, especially if you've got hard go live dates that you've got to meet or something like that. And it's not just implement it when we can.
Yeah, that's certainly important to consider if you are incorporating it into, for example, an SXE to CSD migration. You want to give yourself ample time to test all of it, and make sure that all those pieces are in place. Uh, let's talk just a little bit about uh, add-ons or third-party software pieces that can affect EDI, and there certainly are. There certainly are a few. Um, uh, One of the ones that could would be maybe shipping software, third-party shipping software. Lance, can you talk a little bit about what the types of conversations you need to have or considerations, that how a third-party software could affect EDI?
Yeah, so one of our uh, third-party solutions that we implement is Starship, because we are a Starship and we pretty much install that mainly for most customers on SX and CSD. We had the foresight to look and make sure that if you are an EDI partner, that if you are using Starship and you're getting ready to ship solution, to make sure that that EDI document does not go out before the shipment document does not go out before the tracking number is included on, or the carrier. Make sure the shipping, if you have labels that need to come out, that that information is included on the labels. Without the proper third party setup, these documents could go out without that information, and you'd have customers or vendors calling like, "Hey, where's my tracking number? I want this, I want that." So you're spending time doing that, or it's not showing up on the documents. So it's really important to make sure that any third-party solutions that you have that will interact with EDI, that there's a step process for how the EDI document is going to go out, and with these third-party solutions in place.
Great. Uh, just going to open it up to the rest of the group. Any other best practices that y'all would uh, recommend people to consider as they're looking to implement EDI? All right. Well, let's open it up. If anyone does have additional questions, you can put it into the chat. I do have a few that were uh, submitted in advance. So we'll start with those and see what additional questions pop up. The first one is, what are the biggest challenges companies face when implementing EDI for the first time? Jason, I know y'all have done EDI for some time now, but do you have any thoughts around biggest challenges?
Yeah, it really taken me back to the beginning of when I started learning EDI here. I didn't know anything about it before I came to Schimberg, and so it was a lot of self-education on it and a little help from Ethan as well. So the biggest thing for me was understanding how, for the implementation, understanding how the document structure worked. We were originally on SX on-prem when I came on board, and so um, understanding the flat file structure and how that translated to the actual X12 format, the EDI format, and then what our customer was receiving, and then kind of relearning it in a sense when we moved to Cloud Suite, learning the BOD structure and how that translated EDI and things like that. So, once you learn that and understand that, and there's administration guides out in Concierge that explain the bod structure and the fields that are available and how they map within Cloud Suite to the progress database and things like that to help learn that. So that would be the biggest thing to helping speed up implementation, because anything that I can do to help Ethan get these documents mapped quicker is a huge help to moving the project along.
You're muted, sir.
Yep. Lance, is there anything you would add on that?
Just going in, just having a complete understanding of what really EDI is and having the resources available to assist, say, Ethan, if you're working with him at UniLink, and not expecting that it's going to be a quick turnaround. EDI does take a little time, but it doesn't take that much time. I mean, if you have good, knowledgeable staff members that can understand EDI that you may bring in, you can probably get it set up quicker than most, but it's not something that you can get done in a day. So you testing and everything, and expect a minimum 2 weeks of getting everything prepared together, set up before you start building out the process and working with your team. You guys are really great at guiding the end user on how to get the documents and stuff like that. And but the setup and gathering the information does take a little time. So it's not like your CEO's like, hey, I want to have EDI up and running next week. I heard a simple solution. It's not. You won't really want to look at your business processes, what the EDI solution is going to really resolve for you. And understanding what it may not work right out the gate on everything, because there may be some questions that weren't asked or answered before implementation. So that's why it's really important to also have a testing environment before you're going live on EDI.
Sarah, the other thing I would add to that when someone's starting up, especially when we're talking to them up front, is don't be afraid to ask for help. Because it's if you don't know it, you really need the help. And it'll pay off for you, because it'll just get done so much easier and so much faster.
Yeah, and to add to that, keep asking questions until you fully understand. Just because someone says something, you shake your head, okay, I got it. If you didn't understand, re-ask the question. Keep asking the question until you really understand it. There's 20 ways to ask a question. There's 20 ways to answer it, if not more. So keep asking until you're 100% comfortable. This is your business. This is your company. We want you to be fully understand what information is coming into your company and going out.
Yeah, very true. Let's see, another question we have in here. So a question here is, so we're already using EDI. How could we set it up for additional vendors for possible rebates? Mitch, do you want to talk a little bit about rebates?
Well, the way, and I'm just going to try and guess from the way the question's phrased, there are certain documents, there's what's called an 844 and an 849 that compares the information being exchanged, and then it will allow you to be able to basically audit the rebates that are occurring, and it saves a lot of time. If that's not the question, if whoever submitted that, if they want to submit some more information, we'll be happy to take a further stab at that. But that was the best that I could gather from the question.
Sure. Let's see, another question here. How much maintenance and support is required once you're up and running? So, Jason, I'm going to start with you, since y'all have EDI and have been doing it for a number of years. Once it's up and running and you've gotten through that initial go live period, how much How much do you have to touch it?
Sure. Yeah, not a whole lot. We haven't, after the initial week or two after go live, there might be some tweaks that we have to have Ethan make to the configuration, the mappings, and things like that, as maybe some scenarios come up that you didn't think about during testing or things like that. But for the most part, for our customers, there hasn't been much, if anything, that we have to do with them. So UniLink has a portal that I can see all the transactions that are happening, and I'll keep an eye on that throughout the day, but it's very rare that I have to take action on anything. And so yeah, it's pretty much once you get it up and going, there isn't a whole lot to do unless your trading partner makes a change to something on their end.
That's the piece. Normally, there's not much to do at all. I can tell you when I first called some of our customers in the early days when I came on board, then I talked to the IT guys, they were like, well, no one's complaining about it, so it must be running. So it just kind of ticks along. The only time it does have a blip is if a trading partner changes something that they want, and then that's when it'll need some attention.
And anytime we've had changes that we wanted to make, Ethan jumps right on it and helps us get that implemented quickly. So yeah, there's typically a pretty quick turnaround and getting any things fixed if needed.
One thing you want to think about, we had a person chime in the chat saying, a really important thing to consider when you're doing EDI and you're maybe doing it for the first time or you're bringing on a new trading partner is data integrity, and how to make sure what unit of measure or the product numbers. There's lots of little pieces like that for to consider. Ethan, can you talk a little bit about how you or we UniLink help walk the customer through looking at that or ways around we can be creative on making sure that that goes smoothly?
Yeah, sure. So, in a lot of other cases where these kind of issues come up, I know unit of measure particularly got mentioned. It's very possible, and I've seen it before, where maybe you order or your customer orders something as eaches, but the receiving party only actually sells that as cases. And so you end up, with a discrepancy on each side where the customer says maybe this item should only cost $1.50, but because you sell it in a case, it should be $11.50 or something like that. And UniLink can kind of help as a middle layer there to do that conversion in between so that both sides are happy and not having to do any kind of extra manual workarounds or anything like that. It's almost like a data cleaning layer almost in the middle. And unit of measure is just one of those examples. There's a ton of other things that could be. We can, cross-reference part numbers or ship to locations or vendor warehouses and all kinds of other things like that.
And I'd also point out in Cloud Suite, there are unit of measure conversion data points that you may need to set up. So we do have one trading partner, a vendor that sends us invoices where I had to set up, I think it's in ICSEU, where you have to set up those conversion units to make sure those numbers come out correctly.
Yep, correct.
Well,
Lance, you would know better. I did that once. You probably do that more often than I do.
Yeah, we do it with a lot of our integrations because with our e-commerce side, but also with our EDI side and stuff like that. So I'm very prevalent with ICSEU.
Yeah. Well, let's do a little recap, talking specifically about what does it take to do a successful EDI implementation using a managed service like UniLink. And so that goes through these sort of 5 steps at a very high level. Gathering all of that data that we talked about, having those conversations, both internally and externally, whether that's with a ERP partner, like Expert Tech or one of or your other or your specific ERP partner. And then you go into, you know, after you have gathered all the requirements, we go into creating the mapping. And that's something that UniLink or a managed service provider would handle. Then you go through a testing process, and that's when you're receiving test orders and making sure it hits all of those various scenarios, like Jason mentioned. And then you're returning the documents back and making sure that the trading partner thinks that looks good to them as well. Then once all of that's done and you've hit all of your testing scenarios, we schedule a go live. And then you should expect ongoing support, particularly in the midst of the go live, and then continuous, document flow and support. This is another way to look at how it works, specifically with UniLink. And Ethan, do you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, sure, I can. So, you can kind of see it laid out there. So it looks like UniLink is the kind of many to one connection in a way. We're connecting directly with you or your ERP partner in your ERP system and that's going to connect directly to our data center, go through our smart maps to, convert, if you're in CSD, the bot XML format that comes out of it, or if you're in SX, the SXE flat file, and convert that to your client or your trading partner, whether that be a customer or vendor, their format and specifications, whether that be X12 or some other XML format or something along those lines. And just this graphic kind of shows, how we can manage whether it be a customer connection, a vendor connection, or even something as just an additional partner in terms of the transaction.
Thank you. There's also, as part of that setup, one of the things we have is a connector within Ion. And Ethan, I'm going to pull you in again to talk a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, sure. So kind of like you mentioned at the beginning of the call here, we've been an N4 partner for such a long time. One of the big benefits of that is inside of Ion itself, we actually already have what's called the UniLink EDI connector. And so just with a couple of clicks, getting into Ion Desk, going to connect connection points, and then just searching for UniLink EDI, you'll automatically already have all of the support and scripts that you need to go ahead and connect to our data center. You just reach out to UniLink afterwards for some credentials. You fill that in the table there, and you're good to go ahead and start connecting to our center, connecting to our data center, and sending and receiving transactions.
And Ethan, you talked a little bit about smart maps. You've mentioned them once or twice. Can you give us another example or two about some complicated data analysis that we can do on behalf of our clients?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of different things. Like I mentioned, we've got the unit of measure conversions and ship to conversions that we can do that, maybe can be done inside the ERP, but maybe it's easier to do outside or vice versa, however that is. But there's a lot of other things we can do where, if your ERP system doesn't support rejecting a line item, but you can send it back as a zero quantity, then in the smart map side, we can actually edit that data on its way back out to actually be formatted as a proper rejection rather than just a zero quantity line item or, a litany of other options. Maybe it's just missing from the return 855 that was on the original 850, and now we know that that item's on hold or back ordered, rejected, something along those lines. It just gives us a lot of flexibility to be able to fit, whatever your trading partner's requirements are, whether or not you actually have the capability to do that in your ERP itself.
Thank you. Jason, you mentioned the UniLink customer portal and how you can go in you'll log in to monitor it. Could you talk just a little bit more about another feature or two that you've used and you're like, oh, I really like that this thing exists, or I use it for this?
Sure. Yeah. So, just looking at the screenshot there, the red highlighted line that tells me that document was rejected. So that helps me easily identify if I need to go check into something, whether it went wrong or right. And I can also see the status in the far right column there, and whether something was acknowledged or not. So, um, when UniLink transacts documents to certain purchasing portals, sometimes there's web certificates and things like that that have to be maintained, and sometimes things expire or go haywire. So I could typically catch those issues quickly just by taking a quick look at this page and seeing what's going on. And then if there is, say there's an internal question about data that came through on a purchase order, maybe something got cut off or something was missing. This is a quick place that I can go look to see the original document, the X12 that came from the customer, and how it was translated, how it was mapped to the XML document. And maybe there's something that I need to ask Ethan to map for us, even if it's just going into a note. That way, our sales guys or whoever's reading, processing the purchase order, don't have to ask me questions, don't have to go to our customer to ask questions. It's already in the document there now.
That's great. Ethan, we are constantly innovating on the portal, bringing in client, either customer requests of features or just providing new pieces. We just did an update not too long ago. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, sure. So kind of
Around
like
errors.
Yeah, sure. So kind of like Jason mentioned there in the screenshot, there's that red bar line there. It's showing it's rejected. Recently, we've also updated the portal to show those red bars if the document fails in a mapping process on our side. So, if there's some data missing or it was misformatted to what we were expecting coming from your system or your trading partner system, it's also going to alert you on the portal now with a little message and showing and a highlight showing exactly what was missing or what was misformatted or in the wrong spot.
Uh, thank you very much. Right. Um, uh, one one additional thing we should just talk about before we close and before we have, if there's any other questions, please go ahead and submit them. Any final thoughts, Lance, from you on either best practices on EDI or things folks should really consider as they go on their EDI journey?
So once you have your EDI set up and everything you want to, and if you're usually definitely with Cloud Suite, make sure you turn on the electronic transaction control center, turn on the auditing, and then there's multiple business roles in there that you can set up to allow for auto processing or to stop processing. It helps really well with being able to catch some errors without that you may not be able to get into you may not have looked in the portal, but you have these business rules set up and it'll catch and alert you inside your system as it happens right then and there. I think that's a huge benefit, but also, EDI, it's simple and a lot of times it's set up and forget it, but you want to review your EDI logs and setups at least twice a year. You want to make sure that there haven't been any changes, and also reach out to your customers and your vendors and see if they're planning on making any changes. Stay on top of them. And so you don't have to worry about, hey, in a month you'll get an email and say, hey, in a month we're moving over to this new platform. We need to check. You're like, what? You're caught off guard. So if you can be proactive with managing your trading partners and your customers on what they're doing, it helps a lot. But definitely look into make sure you utilize the Electronic Transaction Control Center, ETCC, out of CSD.
And the other place that I use, well, not frequently, but is helpful, is the ION error notification. You'll want to make sure that that's configured as well, because there are some things that happen before it gets to ETCC. So you'll want to get notified of that as well.
Correct. Yeah. And, as you're going through your EDI training, make sure you learn Ion Desk and OneView and Ion. There's great resources in there, and you can you open up Ion Desk and you'll see some errors right up front on the main control screen. look at those, review those. It may not just be EDI, but anything in your system. So it's really beneficial to use Ion to really enhance your EDI solution.
That's great. Thank you both. Any other final thoughts from the panel?
Sarah, I'll throw something in there. It's one of the things that gets overlooked is if you're working with a trading partner that's you're still doing a reasonable amount of volume with them, but they're sending you like a PDF or even a spreadsheet transaction listing, that can be converted into an EDI transaction, which just because your trading partner isn't willing to step up and be more automated doesn't mean you can't. So don't let that be a limitation.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I want to thank the folks who've joined today, and a special thank you to the panel. We have up here our contact information. You are most welcome to reach out to us with questions. If something comes up as you're thinking about EDI, there's more questions around what to consider or trade-offs there. We're very happy to answer. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. See you later.